The call came on Thursday, March 28th. I was mid-review on depositions when my phone vibrated across the conference table. "Mom's calling," I said to my General Counsel, Patricia Morrison. "Give me 2 minutes." I stepped into the hallway and answered. "Hi, Mom." "Rebecca, sweetheart, we need to talk about Easter." My stomach sank. I recognized that tone, the careful, diplomatic voice she used when bad news needed to sound reasonable. "What about it?" "Well, Richard and I talked it over, and we think it might be best if you sit this one out." Richard. Her husband of 6 months. The Honorable Richard Whitfield, Federal District Court Judge for the Western District of Washington. "Sit it out?" I repeated. "He's hosting colleagues, federal judges, attorneys, their families, very traditional people. Given your current situation, we thought it could be awkward." "My situation?" "The divorce. Honey, you're only 6 months out. A recently divorced woman in her 30s raises questions we'd rather not answer." I closed my eyes. "I see. I knew you would. You've always been so reasonable. And Stephanie will be there with her husband and the kids. It'll be easier to present a stable, unified family." Stephanie. My older sister, dentist husband, 2 flawless children, PTA president, the daughter who fit. "And you think I don't?" "I didn't say that. Don't be dramatic. I just think." My phone buzzed. The family group chat. "Stephanie, totally agree with Mom. Richard's colleagues don't need to meet the whole complicated family situation." "I have to go," I said quietly. "Trial prep." "Oh, you're still doing that legal secretary work?" Mom said lightly. "Well, at least it keeps you busy. I'll save you some leftovers." She hung up. I stood alone in the hallway of Patterson Clark LLP, one of Seattle's most prestigious law firms, and stared at my phone. Legal secretary work. I was a named partner. My name was on the building. Let me rewind. My name is Rebecca Patterson. I graduated top of my class at Columbia Law. I made partner at 32 at Patterson Clark, the firm I helped grow from a scrappy boutique into a corporate litigation powerhouse with 180 attorneys across 3 offices. To my family, I was still the disappointment. Stephanie did everything right. Married young, had children on schedule, bought the house, joined the committees, curated the life. Her existence was a permanent highlight reel. I married at 28. David, software engineer. We were happy until his startup got acquired. $15 million later, our marriage became an inconvenience to his new lifestyle. The divorce was brutal. Not financially, I had my own money, but publicly. Tech blogs ran stories. Seattle society whispered. Mom called it unfortunate. Stephanie called it embarrassing. Dad, before he died 3 years ago, would have called it life. He was the only one who ever understood me. When Mom started dating Richard Whitfield 8 months ago, I supported her. She'd been lonely since Dad passed. Richard was stable, powerful, respected. Then I looked him up. The Honorable Richard Whitfield, appointed to the federal bench 12 years earlier, conservative, well-connected, and currently assigned to Meridian Technologies v. TechFlow Solutions. My case. I was representing Meridian Technologies, a $2.1 billion supply chain software company, in a massive intellectual property theft lawsuit. We were seeking $180 million in damages. The largest case of my career. And it was in my mother's husband's courtroom. I filed a motion for recusal the moment I learned they were dating. Standard procedure. Judge Whitfield recused without hesitation. The case was reassigned to Judge Martin Chin. Brilliant. Fair. Efficient. 2 weeks ago, Judge Chin suffered a heart attack. Emergency reassignment. Back to Judge Whitfield. I filed again. Denied. His clerk called personally. Judge Whitfield reviewed the circumstances. Your mother's relationship with him began after the case was filed. You've had minimal personal interaction. He sees no conflict warranting recusal. Trial proceeds as scheduled. Monday morning. My $180 million case. His courtroom. And I wasn't welcome at Easter because I was inconvenient. Families freeze you at the age you disappointed them most. For Stephanie, that age never existed. For me, it was 23, the day I announced I was going to law school instead of getting married. Law school is so aggressive, Mom had said. Don't you want a family? I can have both. Well, men don't like women who are too ambitious. I went anyway. Columbia Law, top 5%, recruited by 3 firms. I chose Patterson Clark because James Patterson believed in building something new. We'll be the firm everyone wants, he told me, by being smarter than the old guard. He was right. Youngest partner in firm history. From 15 attorneys to 180. Fortune 500 clients. Precedent-setting cases. When James retired, I became managing partner. Mom said it sounded stressful. Stephanie asked who would raise my kids. I didn't have kids. David didn't want them until it was too late. They never asked about the cases. The wins. The empire. Only when I'd settled down. My divorce finalized in September. Mom met Richard in November. They married in January. Small ceremony. I was invited. Seated in the back. Stephanie was maid of honor. At the reception, Richard raised his glass. I'm not just gaining a wife, he said, I'm gaining a family. He smiled at Stephanie. At her children. He never looked at me. Judge discussed a pending case with a family member on the eve of trial. Conflict of interest. Appearance of impropriety. He would deny it. Probably, but it was on the record now. At 8:30 a.m., we filed into the courtroom. Morrison Banks filled their table, 12 attorneys, perfectly arranged. We had 5. Richard Morrison, Techflow's CEO, sat behind his counsel, relaxed, smug, already convinced this was over. Sarah Chin sat beside me, calm, focused, unshakable. Ready. The bailiff entered. All rise. The United States District Court for the Western District of Washington is now in session. The Honorable Richard Whitfield presiding. Judge Whitfield took the bench. He looked exactly like he had in Mom's Easter photos, distinguished, confident, fully in command. He adjusted his papers, settled in, and lifted his gaze. His eyes swept the plaintiff's table. Sarah Chin. My associates. Then me. I watched recognition land, the flicker of surprise, the fraction of a second before he masked it and cleared his throat. Good morning, he said. We're here for trial in Meridian Technologies versus Techflow Solutions. Let's begin with preliminary matters. I stood. Your Honor, the plaintiff has a motion. He nodded. Proceed. Your Honor, I move for your recusal based on conflict of interest. Last night, you discussed this case with my mother, your wife, on the eve of trial. This creates an appearance of impropriety requiring reassignment. The courtroom went dead silent. Judge Whitfield's face flushed. Miss Patterson, I did no such thing. Your Honor, my mother called me at 6 p.m. last night. She stated that you told her I had a major case in your courtroom today and that you hoped for a quick trial. Those are details about a pending matter discussed with a family member. Douglas Morrison shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is a transparent delay tactic. Sit down, Mr. Morrison, Judge Whitfield snapped. Morrison froze, then obeyed. The judge looked at me again, really looked, and something shifted behind his eyes. Miss Patterson, approach. I stepped forward. Morrison tried to follow. Just Miss Patterson, the judge said sharply. I stood beneath the bench. He leaned down. Did your mother actually say that? He asked quietly. Yes, Your Honor, at 6 p.m. I can provide phone records. He closed his eyes for a brief moment. I said I had a complicated trial. I did not discuss details. I didn't even say your name. Your Honor, I said evenly. You're married to my mother. You excluded me from Easter because my presence would be awkward for your colleagues. Now you're presiding over the largest case of my career. Regardless of intent, the appearance of bias is unavoidable. Silence. Step back, Miss Patterson. I returned to counsel table. Judge Whitfield surveyed the room. This court will take a 30-minute recess. All counsel remain available. He rose and left. 20 minutes later, the bailiff summoned both legal teams to chambers. Judge Whitfield sat behind his desk. His clerk stood in the corner, pen poised. Let me be clear, he said. I did not discuss case details with anyone outside this courtroom. However, Miss Patterson has raised legitimate concerns regarding appearance. Douglas Morrison leaned forward. Your Honor, this is forum shopping. They want a different judge because they know you'll be fair and they need someone pliable. Mr. Morrison, the judge said coldly, interrupt me again and I will hold you in contempt. Morrison, shut up. I married Miss Patterson's mother 6 months ago. Judge Whitfield continued. I've met Miss Patterson 3 times. I have no relationship with her. I have no bias. He paused. However, I did mention having a complicated trial yesterday. I understand how that creates an appearance issue. I spoke carefully. Your Honor, there's also the fact that I was excluded from Easter dinner because my presence would be awkward for your colleagues, several of whom are seated in the gallery today. I gestured toward the open doorway. 3 federal judges sat in the back row. Judge Whitfield's jaw tightened. Patricia spoke next. Your Honor, the plaintiff isn't questioning your integrity. We're questioning whether the circumstances undermine public confidence in these proceedings. A long silence. I'm denying the motion, Judge Whitfield said. My chest dropped. However, he continued, I will state the following on the record. My wife and I will have 0 contact during this trial. I'll reside at my downtown apartment. If she contacts me regarding this case in any way, I will recuse immediately and report it. Yes, Your Honor. He turned to Morrison. And Mr. Morrison, one more insinuation that Miss Patterson is acting improperly and I will sanction your firm. She raised this issue professionally. You will treat her accordingly. Yes, Your Honor. We begin in 10 minutes. The trial lasted 6 days. Morrison banks threw everything at us, procedural maneuvers, technical smokescreens, expert theatrics. We dismantled them. Our forensic analyst proved Techflow's code was 87% identical to Meridian's proprietary algorithms. Their expert couldn't refute it. Our damages economist traced $180 million in lost contracts directly to the theft. Their rebuttal fell flat. Sarah Chin testified for 4 hours, precise, confident, devastating. Under cross, Morrison tried to shake her. Miss Chin, isn't it true your company has sued 3 competitors in 5 years? Yes, she said calmly, because 3 competitors stole our technology. Protecting innovation isn't aggression, it's survival. The jury leaned in. Judge Whitfield ran a disciplined courtroom. No grandstanding, no favoritism, clean rulings, absolute neutrality. On day 4, my mother appeared in the gallery. I noticed her during recess 3 rows back, watching. After adjournment, she approached me. Rebecca, can we talk? Not here. Richard told me about the motion. He's very upset. He created the conflict. He didn't mean to. I asked questions. Patricia stepped beside me. Mrs. Whitfield, this is inappropriate. Please don't contact Rebecca about this case. I'm her mother. And your husband is the presiding judge. Patricia replied evenly. If this continues, we'll report it. Mom went pale. She looked at me. You'd do that? You'd hurt Richard? Go home, Mom. We'll talk after the verdict. She left, tears in her eyes. That night, Stephanie texted me. You're tearing this family apart over a lawsuit. Is it really worth it? I didn't answer. Closing arguments were Friday. Douglas Morrison spoke first. 2 hours of polished deflection. He told the jury this was about competition, not theft. That similar code was inevitable in tech. That Meridian was a corporate bully trying to crush a smaller rival. Then it was my turn. I spoke for 90 minutes. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't dramatize. I walked them through the evidence, step by step. The timeline of the theft. The emails between Techflow engineers acknowledging they'd copied Meridian's architecture. The financial records showing they knew exactly what they were doing. This isn't competition, I said. This is desperation. I let that settle. A company that couldn't innovate took a shortcut. They stole 3 years of research, 3 years of development, 3 years of investment. They copied it because they assumed Meridian wouldn't fight back. I turned slightly and looked at Sarah Chin. They were wrong. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. We waited in the courthouse library. Sarah paced. Patricia reviewed notes. I stared out the window and refused to picture my mother's face in the gallery. At 4:47 p.m. The bailiff appeared. Jury's back. The courtroom was packed, reporters, industry analysts, law students lining the walls. Mom sat 3 rows back. Stephanie beside her. Judge Whitfield entered. All rise. The jury filed in. Their faces gave nothing away. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. In Meridian Technologies versus TechFlow Solutions, we find in favor of the plaintiff. Sarah's hand found mine. We award damages in the amount of $180 million. The room exploded. Judge Whitfield struck the gavel, but I barely heard it. We'd won. Outside, the courthouse steps dissolved into chaos as cameras, microphones, shouted questions. Sarah gave a statement about protecting innovation. I stood back and let her own the moment. Patricia hugged me. Biggest verdict in firm history. We did it, I said. My phone buzzed non-stop. Congratulations. Interview requests. New clients. And one message from Mom. Can we please talk? She was waiting by my car. Stephanie stood beside her, arms crossed. You excluded me from Easter, I said before she could speak. You told me I'd be awkward, that I'd embarrass Richard in front of his colleagues. I didn't mean it that way, she said quickly. Then how did you mean it? She faltered. I thought, with the divorce and your work, it would be easier if things stayed simple. I'm not a complication, I said. I'm your daughter. Stephanie stepped in. You humiliated Richard. That motion, everyone saw it. He created the conflict. I addressed it properly. You could have handled it quietly. There's no quiet way to handle a judge discussing a case with family the night before trial. Mom's eyes filled. I didn't understand. He barely said anything. He's a federal judge, I said. He understands. I unlocked my car. Rebecca, please, Mom said. Richard wants to be part of your life. Then he should have invited me to Easter. I got in. Stephanie knocked on the window. You're being childish. This was just a holiday dinner. I rolled it down. No, this is 38 years of being treated like I don't measure up. Like my work is embarrassing. Like my life choices need explaining. That's not fair. When I made partner, Mom asked if it meant I'd have less time for family. When you became PTA president, she threw a party. When I won a national litigation award, she said it sounded stressful. Stephanie didn't answer. I'm happy you got the life you wanted, I said, but I'm done apologizing for mine. I drove away. The verdict made national news. Largest IP theft award in Western District history. Precedent-setting. Patterson-Clark's projections doubled. New clients poured in. Mom emailed an apology. Long, careful. Richard was horrified. They wanted to make things right. I replied once. I need time. 3 weeks later, I received a handwritten letter from Judge Whitfield. He apologized for the conversation, for Easter, for making assumptions about who I was. Watching me try the case, he wrote, dismantled every one of them. You are formidable, he wrote, and your mother is proud of you, even when she doesn't know how to show it. He asked for dinner, neutral ground. I called him. Tuesday, I said, 7. He agreed. Dinner was awkward, then thoughtful. He asked about my career, the firm, the cases. I asked about the bench and my mother. She's intimidated, he admitted. Your success doesn't fit the framework she understands. She could just be my mom. I'll tell her that. We met monthly after that. Mom took longer, but at Thanksgiving, when I was invited, she introduced me proudly. This is my daughter. She runs Patterson-Clark. It was a start. Stephanie and I barely spoke. Some wounds take time. 6 months later, she texted. Saw you quoted in the Times. Nice work. I replied, thanks. As for me, I kept building. A 4th office, 15 new associates, 85 million in revenue, more wins, more precedent. When people asked how I balanced it all, I thought about Easter dinner, about being inconvenient, About walking into that courtroom and proving I belonged. Balance? I said. I don't balance. I build. Because the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building something so undeniable they're forced to rethink everything they believed about you. And then deciding, on your own terms, who gets to stay.